Tonight in this podcast, we look at the silent ledgers we carry. There is this quiet, almost invisible weight that just settles into our closest relationships whenever money enters the room.
Yeah, and it's a weight we really rarely acknowledge out loud. Like it doesn't announce itself with some dramatic argument or, a huge betrayal.
Right, it just sits there, right
Yeah.
between the dinner plates or in those delayed text threads,
Sure.
and definitely in those quiet, solitary moments before we fall asleep.
Exactly. It's this profound kind of social friction. And it builds up so slowly, fraction by fraction, until it just fundamentally alters the landscape of how we connect with the people we care about the most.
And because we don't really have the vocabulary to talk about it, we end up carrying that tension entirely alone.
We really do.
So today, we are taking a deep dive into the human side of that tension. And our mission for this deep dive into our sources, which, by the way, include sociological studies, anthropological frameworks, the QuickBooks and Splitty blogs, Psychology Today, and Philadelphia Magazine. Our goal is to explore exactly what happens when the cold, hard math of money collides with the warmth of friendship.
It's such a fascinating collision, too.
It really is. And I think we should start with a scene. Because you know this scene. We have all lived this scene.
Oh, absolutely. Set it up.
Okay, so you are out at a dinner with a group of friends. The food was incredible. The conversation was just flowing effortlessly.
Everyone's laughing.
Right. You're leaning in, sharing stories. The warmth of the evening is palpable. It feels, well, it feels like community.
Yeah?
And then the server walks over, smiles, and drops a little black leather folder right in the center of the table. The bill has arrived. And suddenly the table just freezes.
The temperature in the room basically drops 10 degrees. Like the eye contact completely vanishes.
Exactly. Nobody moves. Everyone is suddenly deeply fascinated by, like, the last sip of their cocktail, or they are intensely checking a phantom notification on their phone.
It's the longest silence ever.
The silence stretches just a second too long.
Mm-hmm.
The communal warmth is just evaporating by the millisecond.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you physically cannot stand the awkwardness anymore, you reach out, pull the folder toward you, and you just put your credit card down.
You take the hit.
You take the hit.
Yeah.
You look up and say, hey, I'll just put it on my card and everyone can Venmo me. And there's this immediate collective exhale from the group. The tension breaks. The warmth returns. The evening is saved.
Right, but it's saved for them. The evening is saved for them.
Oh, totally.
But the evening isn't really over for you.
Far from it, because now we have to look at the aftermath. Fast forward a few hours. It is 11:47 p.m.
The worst time to be doing math.
The absolute worst.
Yeah.
You are sitting in bed, illuminated only by the glow of your phone screen in a dark room. All the joy and connection of the dinner, completely gone.
Replaced by accounting.
Exactly. You are looking at this crumpled receipt, squinting at the blurry ink, just trying to calculate the tax and the tip. You're doing mental arithmetic to figure out who ordered the second glass of wine and who only had a side salad.
Which is exhausting in itself.
And then you're drafting 6 different Venmo requests. And here's where it gets incredibly specific, right? You are typing out the little emojis.
Oh, the emojis.
A slice of pizza, a martini glass, maybe a little smiley face. You are doing everything in your power to make the request look light and breezy and super casual.
Because heaven forbid you look like you actually want your money back.
Right. But as your thumb hovers over the send button, you know for a fact that at least 2 people in that group will not pay you back until Thursday. You know you will have to send a reminder.
Yeah, that dreaded follow-up text.
And as you finally hit send, you feel this weird, sinking, heavy pang of guilt.
Which is such a fascinating psychological response if you think about it. You feel guilty for asking for your own money back.
It makes no sense.
Logically, it makes zero sense. You provided a short-term loan to facilitate a group experience. You are merely reconciling the accounts. But emotionally, you feel like you are doing something wrong.
Like you broke a rule.
Exactly. You feel like you are violating an unspoken rule of the relationship.
Well, let's look at the other side of the coin, too. There's a second scenario highlighted in the research we pulled from the Society for Personality and Social Psychology.
Yes, the SPSP studies.
Right. Let's say you lent a friend $60. They came to you, they were short on cash, they needed to buy some groceries, and you helped them out.
Because that's what friends do.
Exactly. Not because you are a bank, but because you care about them. But the very next day, you are scrolling through social media, and you see they just posted a photo holding a brand new video game.
Or, they post a story from a concert. Or they walk into your apartment holding one of those specialty $7 iced coffees.
And you feel this sudden hot flash of annoyance. It is just automatic. You think, wait a minute, you couldn't afford groceries yesterday, but you could afford a video game today with my money.
It's infuriating.
It really is. Now, the core feeling here in both the dinner scenario and the $60 loan scenario is an unspoken, heavy exhaustion. You aren't necessarily mad about the money itself. The $27 for the dinner or the $60 for the groceries won't bankrupt you. You are exhausted by the feeling of the money.
Yes.
You're exhausted by the mental gymnastics required to navigate it.
And, in the realm of psychology and sociology, this specific exhaustion isn't just a quirk of your personality. It is a highly documented structural conflict.
Okay, so we're getting into the naming part of the deep dive.
We are going to explore a framework called the communal exchange collision.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is colliding?
Well, to understand the collision, we have to look at how humans categorize relationships. The foundational research on this comes from psychologists Margaret Clark and Judson Mills back in 1979.
What did they find?
They identified that human beings operate within two fundamentally different types of relational architectures. The first is the communal relationship.
Okay.
This is based on mutual need, warmth, spontaneity, and crucially, a total lack of scorekeeping. In a communal relationship, you give because the other person has a need and you have the capacity to meet it.
So this is how friendships, family dynamics, and romantic partnerships are supposed to function.
Exactly.
Like if you help me move my couch up 3 flights of stairs on a Saturday, I don't hand you an itemized invoice for my time the next time I drive you to the airport.
Right, you don't track the exact caloric output of your favors. It is just an open, trusting flow of care. The motivation in a communal relationship is literally just the welfare of the other person.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But Clark and Mills contrasted this with a second type, right?
They did. The second type is the exchange relationship. And this is based on strict reciprocity, clear expectations, fair ratios, and basically business transactions.
Like going to a store.
Exactly. When you go to the grocery store to buy a carton of milk, you hand the cashier exactly $4.50 and they hand you the milk. The ledger is perfectly mathematically balanced.
And the interaction is just complete.
Right. There is no expectation of lingering emotional warmth. You don't expect the cashier to check in on you the next day to see how you are feeling.
So an exchange relationship is fundamentally a business transaction. It is safe because it is perfectly defined.
Yes. The boundaries are incredibly rigid. The aha moment in Clark and Mills' research is what happens when those two architectures are forced into the exact same space.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. Asking a friend to pay you back for their share of the appetizers or feeling judged by a sibling who lent you money forces the strict, cold dynamic of an exchange relationship directly into the warm, undefined space of a communal relationship.
It's like trying to be a loving friend and an IRS auditor at the exact same time.
Yeah, it is the perfect analogy.
You literally cannot inhabit both of those roles simultaneously. It feels like suddenly being forced to speak a foreign language in your own home. The warmth of the friendship is colliding head-on with the calculative nature of the math.
And this is why your heart rate literally spikes when you have to text a friend to ask for $30. It isn't about the $30.
It's not.
No. Your physiological response is reacting to a boundary violation. You are temporarily suspending the communal rules of friendship and enacting the exchange rules of debt collection.
Wow.
Yeah, your brain basically perceives this as a threat to the social bond.
Before we move into the heavy science of why our brains are hardwired to react this way, we want to take a brief, warm pause.
Yes, let's take a breath.
If you're listening to this and thinking, wow, I thought I was the only one who felt guilty sending a Venmo request, we want to invite you to subscribe to Leone Patterns and leave a comment.
Please do.
Building a community of people who want to understand the human side of money helps everyone feel a little less alone.
It really does. Because when we look at the psychological mechanics beneath these interactions, the science confirms that you are absolutely not alone. Your reactions are deeply embedded in how human beings process resources and social ties.
So let's look at the psychology of the lender. We brought in research from the 2024 Society for Personality and Social Psychology, a study conducted by Ashley Angelo, Noah Goldstein, and Michael Norton.
Yes, they ran some really extensive studies to understand how people navigate the act of lending.
And what was the main takeaway?
The specific finding here reveals a massive cognitive blind spot we all share. When money is given as a true gift, say, a birthday present, The giver completely relinquishes control. The transaction is done.
Right, it's a gift.
But when money is a loan, the human brain does a very strange trick. Lenders subconsciously feel that they retain ownership of the money, even though it is physically in the borrower's bank account.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this a little bit. If I lend someone $60, isn't it just logical that I want to know they aren't blowing it on video games? Why are we calling this a strange trick of the brain? It just seems like practical common sense.
It feels like common sense to us in the modern world, sure. But we have to look at the evolutionary mechanism driving it. Our brains evolved in small tribes where resources, food, tools, shelter were a literal matter of life and death.
Okay.
We are hardwired for resource guarding. When you lend a resource, your primitive brain doesn't conceptualize it as a modern financial contract. It sees a piece of your own survival floating around in someone else's pocket.
Oh, well.
Because it is expected to come back to you, your brain maintains a psychological tether to it. You feel an inherent biological entitlement to police how that resource is utilized.
Ah, so even though the $60 is in their wallet, my brain still firmly believes it is my $60, and therefore my rules should apply to it.
Precisely. And this leads to a sharp distinction in how we judge spending. In the Angelou study, researchers separated purchases into two categories: utilitarian and hedonic.
Write those down for us.
Sure, if the borrower used the $60 loan to buy a textbook or pay a utility bill, a utilitarian survival-based purchase, the lender felt fine. The survival resource was being used appropriately.
Right.
But if the borrower bought a video game or a concert ticket or a nice dinner, a hedonic, pleasure-based purchase, the lenders experienced significant, measurable anger.
Because my brain is saying, I didn't lend you a piece of my survival so you could experience luxury. I lent it to you so you wouldn't starve.
Exactly. And that anger creates a profound rupture in the communal relationship. The lender has appointed themselves the financial guardian, and the borrower suddenly feels monitored, infantilized, and judged.
That sounds miserable for both people.
It is. But here's the detail from the study that truly blew me away. They call it the hangover effect.
A hangover effect.
Yes. You would naturally assume that once the borrower hands the $60 back to the lender, the tension dissipates. The ledger is clear. The survival resource has been returned.
Right. We are even. We can go back to being normal friends.
But the data says otherwise. The study found that this judgment persists long after the loan is paid back. The lender remains significantly angrier about the video game purchase than the textbook purchase, even when the money is back in their own pocket.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Wait. So the research is saying that our brain literally hasn't let go of the judgment. We think we got the permanent right to be their financial advisor.
We feel we have purchased a controlling stake in their moral and financial decision-making. The loan temporarily altered the power dynamic of the relationship, and power dynamics do not reset instantaneously just because a Venmo transaction clears.
That is wild.
It really is. Our sources from the QuickBooks financial blog point this out beautifully regarding family dynamics, actually.
Oh, the family dynamics at the absolute peak of this.
Yes. Imagine buying a new car or booking a beach vacation while you still owe your parents money for a down payment.
Oh, no.
Right. Even if you are making the agreed-upon monthly payments perfectly on time, the unspoken awareness of that debt just hangs over the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah, the parent feels entitled to comment on the vacation, and the adult child feels reduced to a teenager again.
Exactly.
So that explains the judgment when we lend money. But why does the organizer feel so angry when everyone else had a great time at the dinner? What is our brain actually doing when we sit there in bed at 11:47 p.m. doing the math?
Our brains are basically running a subconscious, continuous accounting software. Sociologists George Homans, Peter Blau, and psychologists John Thibaut and Harold Kelly mapped this out over several decades. They developed social exchange theory.
Okay, what is the core of that theory?
The core premise is that human beings are constantly running a hidden cost-benefit analysis in every single social interaction. The foundational formula is simple. Worth equals rewards minus costs.
So the rewards are the good things we get from a friendship, like companionship, emotional support, laughter, a sense of belonging, and the costs are the negative things, the effort required to maintain the friendship, the time spent, the money spent, and the emotional drain of dealing with their problems.
Yes. We are constantly evaluating that ratio, and within this framework, psychologist J. Stacey Adams developed the inequity and social exchange model in 1965.
What did Adams add to it?
Adams proposed that we don't just look at our own ratio. We are constantly, obsessively comparing our ratio of inputs to outcomes against the ratios of the people around us.
Let's apply that to the dinner table.
Okay, so if the ratios are roughly equal, we feel socially secure. But think about the organizer. Your inputs are massive. You research the restaurant, you organize the group chat, you put your credit card down to save the table from awkwardness, you are absorbing the risk of the bill, and you are doing the administrative labor of chasing people for money.
That is a huge list of inputs.
And your outcome, the exact same fun evening everyone else had.
My friends just showed up, ate the appetizers, drank the wine, and had a seamless, magical experience with zero hassle.
Exactly. You are experiencing what Adams called underpayment inequity. Your inputs vastly outweigh your rewards compared to the rest of the group.
And how does that make us feel?
According to Adams, underpayment inequity automatically, structurally induces anger. It is a biological response to perceived exploitation. You cannot logic your way out of it.
Even if you try to talk yourself down.
Right. You can tell yourself, oh, it's just a few dollars, it's fine. But your primitive brain recognizes the massive imbalance in tribal labor and signals deep emotional distress.
How long have we been doing this? Like, is this just a modern problem because of apps and credit cards?
Not at all. Anthropology has been studying this exact phenomenon for a very long time, looking at how early human societies functioned.
Really?
Yeah. Marshall Solins, in his foundational 1972 book, Stone Age Economics, outlined 3 distinct types of reciprocity that govern human exchange. The first is generalized reciprocity.
What does that look like?
This is the true gift. You give something with only a vague, undefined expectation that it might be returned someday in some form. You don't keep a ledger. This is how a mother feeds a child, or how close tribal can share a successful hunt.
That sounds like the communal relationship we talked about earlier.
Very similar, yes. The second type is balanced reciprocity.
Okay.
This is the direct, immediate exchange of customary equivalents. You give me a basket of wheat, I give you a basket of fish right now. It is a clean trade.
And the third?
The third is negative reciprocity. This is the attempt to get something for nothing with impunity. Haggling, theft, exploitation, or trying to maximize your own gain at the direct expense of someone else.
Right, okay.
What Solins pointed out is that the type of reciprocity we use depends entirely on social distance. We use generalized reciprocity with our closest kin, we use balanced reciprocity with acquaintances or neighboring tribes, and we expect negative reciprocity from strangers or enemies.
This makes so much sense. Think about how you feel when you were at a flea market with a stranger. You haggle. You try to get the antique lamp for $10 instead of $40.
Exactly.
It's a game. It's negative reciprocity, and it feels fine because the social distance is vast.
Yeah.
But imagine if your sister tried to haggle with you over the cost of a shared Mother's Day gift.
It would feel intensely, violently offensive because she is treating a close kin relationship with the mechanics of a stranger. And this is exactly why the dinner bill is so fraught.
It violates the social distance.
Yes. The late anthropologist David Graeber expanded on this beautifully with his concept of open versus closed reciprocity. Graeber argued that close friendships actually thrive on open reciprocity.
Meaning the ledger is never perfectly balanced.
Yes. Think about your closest friend. If you buy them a coffee on Tuesday, you don't demand $4.50. You know they will probably buy you a beer next week, or they'll pick up the bagels next month. The ledger is slightly, perpetually unbalanced.
And that's a good thing.
According to Graeber, yes. He pointed out that this ongoing, unbalanced state means the relationship is alive. The outstanding debt implies a future. It implies that we will see each other again to continue the exchange.
But when a friend texts me asking for exactly $27.43 for a dinner we just had,
They are perfectly balancing the ledger. And by perfectly balancing the ledger down to the penny, you temporarily close the relationship. It feels clinical.
it really does.
It signals an end to the interaction. Settling the debt completely removes the necessity of a future interaction, which is why pulling out calculators at the end of a warm communal dinner feels so jarring to our social instincts. You are closing a ledger that your brain desperately wants to leave open.
Wow. This brings us from the deep science right into the reality of our daily lives. We need to look at the patterns this creates. The source material from the Splitty Financial blog breaks this down incredibly well.
They really nailed the behavioral patterns.
They did. We call this pattern the friend who always organizes. If you are listening to this and you are that friend, your invisible workload is just staggering.
It truly is an unpaid administrative shift. And it happens completely in the shadows.
Let's track the actual labor, because it starts way before the dinner. Before the dinner even happens, you're the one polling the group chat for dates.
Right?
You are cross-referencing everyone's schedules. You are checking dietary restrictions, making sure there are gluten-free options and vegetarian mains. You are reading the Yelp reviews. You are making the reservation and putting your credit card down for the no-show deposit.
And that is just the preamble.
During the dinner, while everyone else is just enjoying the ambiance, your brain is running a background program. You are mentally tracking who ordered the expensive craft cocktails and who only had tap water. You are the one who manages that frozen, silent moment when the bill arrives by volunteering your card. And after dinner, long after the hugs goodbye, you are photographing the receipt, doing the complex math of splitting tax and tip proportionally, and tracking the social debts over the next 4 days.
What's vital to recognize here is that no single one of these tasks is overwhelmingly difficult. Polling a group chat isn't breaking rocks. Doing basic math isn't climbing a mountain.
True.
It is the steady, unrelenting accumulation of these microtasks that causes the damage. And when we look at the psychology of the group, we have to ask a difficult question. Why does no one step up to help this organizer?
Right. This is the question that haunts the organizer. Are my friends just inherently selfish? Do they not care about my time?
It is easy to label them as selfish, but behavioral science gives us a much more nuanced answer. They are falling prey to a well-documented psychological pattern called social loafing.
Social loafing. I love that term.
In 1979, researchers Leone, Williams, and Harkins conducted a fascinating experiment. They brought participants into a room, put headphones on them, and asked them to shout as loudly as they possibly could into a microphone. They measured the decibel levels.
What were the results?
When our participant believed they were shouting completely alone, they screamed at maximum volume. They gave 100% effort.
Okay.
But when the researchers told the participants they were shouting simultaneously in a group of 6 people, the noise produced by each individual dropped significantly.
Wait, even though they couldn't hear the other people over the headphones?
Exactly. Just the belief that they were part of a group caused their individual effort to plummet. Because they subconsciously felt their contribution was pooled, they felt they could hide in the aggregate. They relied on the group to carry the volume.
If we translate that decibel drop directly to a dinner table where 6 people are watching one person calculate the tip,
It is the exact same mechanism. At a dinner table, if one person is already clearly stepping up to handle the logistics, the potential contributions of everyone else become invisible.
and if their contribution feels invisible, it feels dispensable.
Exactly. The group subconsciously assumes the organizer enjoys it or is simply better at it, so their motivation to help completely evaporates. They aren't maliciously plotting to exploit the organizer, they are just socially loafing.
But eventually, the organizer realizes what is happening. The fog lifts.
Yes. And that triggers a very specific psychological breaking point. In 1983, researcher Norbert Kerr identified this as the sucker effect.
The sucker effect.
The sucker effect is that highly specific, crystalline moment when the organizer looks around the table, looks at their highly educated, fully capable, intelligent adult friends, and realizes that these people could easily calculate a tip or make a reservation, but they are actively choosing not to.
It's the moment you think, wait, why am I the only one doing this? Am I the chump?
You realize you are carrying the entire cognitive load of the friendship. And the behavioral response to the sucker effect is almost never a dramatic, table-flipping confrontation.
No, nobody wants to cause a scene.
Right. The organizer simply reduces their effort,
Yeah.
they withdraw, they refuse to be the sucker anymore, they stop sending the calendar invites.
And this withdrawal is so quiet, it happens entirely under the surface. It is deeply tied to the immense, crushing taboo around talking about money.
Oh.
We pulled a beautifully reported piece from Philadelphia Magazine that explores this silence perfectly.
That was a brilliant piece.
The author notes a profound paradox. She and her friends will talk about deeply, intensely personal things. They will discuss the intimate details of their therapy sessions, the physical trauma of childbirth, precancerous moles, marital struggles. But they will never disclose their salaries or talk about personal finances.
It remains the ultimate social taboo. You can see this reflected in the Lemonade social media sources we reviewed as well.
Oh, the Lemonade posts were heartbreaking.
They really were. The anonymity of the app allows people to confess what they can't say in real life. There are endless posts from users agonizing over how to ask a sibling to repay a $500 loan, or dealing with a parent who reappears after 6 years just to ask for cash.
And they are so scared of the backlash.
Yes. The users on that app express deep, paralyzing anxiety about being labeled selfish, cheap, or dramatic just for wanting their own money back.
That fear of being labeled is what keeps us silent. The Philadelphia Magazine piece shared a story that illustrates this beautifully. It's about a woman named Margot.
Right, the private school story.
Yeah. Margot and her husband made the difficult, intentional financial decision to send their kids to a very elite private city school. It was a massive stretch for them. The tuition was the equivalent of buying a fully loaded Mercedes every single year.
Which is a huge financial strain.
Massive. They were driving older cars, skipping vacations, and budgeting strictly just to make this happen. Initially, Margot thought this shared sacrifice would be a bonding point with the other parents at the school.
She assumed a shared communal struggle.
Exactly. But soon she realized the other families weren't sacrificing at all. They weren't budgeting to afford the Mercedes-level tuition. They had private planes. They had sprawling summer homes in Nantucket and winter homes in Aspen. The wealth wasn't just slightly different. It was an entirely different stratosphere.
And the financial disparity became impossible to ignore in the micro-interactions. The casual suggestions for $200 weekday lunches, the assumptions about where everyone was going for the holidays.
And what happened to Margot's friendship with that group of mothers? It fractured. But again, not with a massive cinematic fight. There was no screaming match in the school parking lot. It was a slow, quiet, inevitable drifting apart.
Which is how these things usually end.
Yeah. The Philadelphia Magazine author noted that Margot wasn't consumed by bitter jealousy. It was simply a profound mismatch in values. When you realize your friends operate in a totally different financial reality, when a $200 lunch is a rounding error to them but a week's grocery budget for you, the ground underneath the friendship feels fundamentally unstable.
And when you combine that deep social silence, that taboo, with the invisible labor of the organizer we talked about earlier, you inevitably arrive at a state of total burnout.
Friendship burnout.
Yes. We can actually take Christina Maslach's famous 1981 burnout inventory, which was designed for occupational burnout in nurses and social workers, and map it directly onto these friendships.
Let's walk through those stages. Because if you are the organizer, you will recognize this instantly. Stage 1 is emotional exhaustion.
This is the baseline. This is when the act of organizing itself becomes profoundly draining. You receive a text suggesting a group dinner, and before you even reply, you feel a wave of fatigue. You are already dreading the labor before the event is even on the calendar.
Stage 2 is depersonalization.
This is where it gets dangerous. Depersonalization is when you stop seeing your friends as complex, loving humans and start seeing them as walking IOUs.
Ouch.
Right. The genuine thought, I can't wait to catch up with Sarah and hear about her new job, is replaced entirely by the cynical thought, Sarah still owes me $34 from last month. Let's see if she conveniently forgets her wallet again. You cease being a friend and become a cynical debt collector.
And stage 3 is reduced accomplishment.
Yeah. The dinner happens. It was objectively a success. Everyone laughed. The food was great. But when you drive home, you feel hollow.
Because of the math.
Exactly. All you remember is the 45 minutes you spent doing mental math, the awkward pause when the bill came, and the fact that you now have to chase 3 people for Venmo payments. The emotional reward of the friendship does not match the logistical input. And so the organizer quietly steps back, they stop planning, and the rest of the group, completely oblivious to the burnout, just wonders why they don't see each other as much anymore.
This brings us to what I think is the absolute most vital part of this entire deep dive. If you take nothing else away from this conversation, hear this. We need to name the specific dissonance you're feeling. We need to give you the vocabulary for the exhaustion.
It is so important to name it.
The renowned sociologist Arlie Russell Hochschild gave us the perfect term for this in her groundbreaking book, The Managed Heart. She coined the concept of emotional labor.
Hochschild defined emotional labor as the hidden work of managing your own feelings and suppressing your true reactions in order to create a publicly acceptable, pleasant display for others.
Like a flight attendant.
Exactly. Think about a flight attendant smiling through severe turbulence to keep the passengers calm. The friend who always organizes is performing intense, sustained emotional labor. They're actively absorbing all the friction, all the awkwardness of the bill, all the logistical stress, so that the rest of the group can exist in a state of unbothered bliss.
And Hochschild warned that sustained emotional labor creates something called emotive dissonance. That is the painful, exhausting gap between what you actually feel internally and what you are forced to display externally.
Let's look at the physical reality of emotive dissonance. You are holding your phone. You are feeling a deep, legitimate resentment that your friend has ignored your payment request for 3 days. Your chest feels tight. Your jaw is clenched.
But you are typing, hey, no worries at all, but whenever you get a chance,
Exactly.
and you are painstakingly selecting the perfect, non-threatening emojis to add to the end. You rewrite the text 3 times to ensure it doesn't sound passive-aggressive. You are smiling digitally while fuming internally. That gap is emotive dissonance, and it takes a massive toll on your nervous system.
It is exhausting.
So what does this all mean? We want to speak directly to you right now. If you are the friend who is always organizing and you feel resentful, if you lent a sibling money and you feel deeply anxious and judged when they buy something frivolous,
If you are exhausted by the mental math of your relationships,
you need to hear this. You are not petty, you are not cheap, you are not a bad friend.
your behavior, your frustration, your exhaustion, it makes complete human sense. You are experiencing what sociologist William J. Good called role strain in 1960. You are a human being with finite emotional resources.
And the bargain you struck has failed.
Yes, the role bargain you struck with your friends where you handle the cold logistics and they just show up for the warm community has become an unsustainable trap. You are desperately trying to protect the warm communal nature of your friendships while simultaneously absorbing the cold, hard reality of the exchange relationship.
You are exhausted because you're
Uh-huh.
doing the heavy emotional lifting for the entire group. Your frustration is not a character flaw. It is a structural inevitability. You are trying to bridge 2 worlds that were never meant to overlap. If you feel this tension, the realization you should have right now is simple. I am not broken. I am human.
And if we pull this idea upward, if we zoom out and look at the deeper connection, we have to ask the ultimate question. Why does this hurt so much? Why does a $27 Venmo request have the power to keep a grown adult awake at night staring at the ceiling?
Because in these moments, money is never just about money.
Right. Money is a proxy. It is a stand-in for our deepest social needs. When you have to chase a friend for 3 days for a $27 dinner share, it isn't about the $27. It's about the feeling of being unseen. It's about respect.
You are sitting there silently asking, do you value my time? Do you value my effort? Do you care that I am deeply uncomfortable right now having to ask you for this?
And on the flip side, when a family member lends you money and then casually judges your purchases at a holiday dinner, it isn't really about the video game or the concert ticket. It is about autonomy. It is about a sudden, visceral power imbalance. It triggers the deep, primal human fear that their love, their respect, and their support are highly conditional.
The Philadelphia Magazine piece highlighted something incredibly beautiful about this struggle. True parity in friendships isn't actually about having the exact same numbers in your bank accounts. It isn't about perfectly matching salaries. It is about finding it about for the friendship. What is the friendship about? Is it about shared values, mutual support, and vulnerability?
We keep our finances hidden in the dark because we are terrified. We are terrified that if the ledger is finally exposed, if our friends truly see how much we make or how little we have, or how deeply we resent the unpaid emotional debts, the illusion of parity will shatter and the love might disappear.
But there was a story in that article that proves the exact opposite. It was about a woman named Jen who went on a weekend trip to Cape May with 5 of her closest girlfriends. For years, they had all been quietly maintaining the facade of effortless financial stability.
Keeping up appearances.
Exactly. But one night, sitting around the rental house, the tension of the emotive dissonance just became too much. Jen cracked. She finally admitted out loud that she was incredibly stressed about money. She confessed she couldn't afford the lifestyle they were all pretending to live.
And what happened? The group didn't ostracize her. The tension didn't destroy the room.
Instead, the floodgates opened. It turned out every single one of them was carrying the exact same invisible weight. They all pulled out their phones. They downloaded a budgeting app right there in the living room. They entered their real salaries. They entered their crippling daycare costs, their credit card debts, their hidden financial anxieties. They bared everything. They dropped the ultimate taboo.
They traded the illusion of perfection for the reality of connection.
And what Jen found was that this moment of terrifying exposure was one of the most incredible bonding friend experiences of her entire life. Revealing those vulnerabilities didn't destroy the friendships. It deepened them profoundly. It allowed them to finally adjust how they spent time together. They swapped expensive restaurant dinners for living room pizza nights because they finally understood the reality of each other's lives.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, I want to offer one quiet reflection for you to carry into your week.
What is it?
Over the next few days, simply notice the invisible ledgers you carry. Notice the exact moments you feel that emotive dissonance, that painful gap between what you feel and what you are forced to display when the bill arrives or the text message is sent. You don't have to fix these ledgers right now. You don't have to confront anyone or demand a perfectly balanced book. Just look at these ledgers with genuine curiosity rather than heavy judgment. Recognize that the tension you feel is not a failure on your part. It is not pettiness. It is just the natural, deeply human friction of trying to love people in a very complicated world.
If this conversation felt true for you, if something in here landed, we would love for you to subscribe to Leone Patterns so you never miss what we explore next.
Leave a comment and tell us, what did this bring up for you? We read every single one.
We are building a community here, people who think about money differently, not as a number to chase, but as a human experience to understand.
You are not alone in this. And we are genuinely glad you are here at Leone Patterns.
Same pace, same questions. See you then.